the opportunity to the human society to understand God. Such a soul-killing civilization. It is a fact. They are denying, what is God? There is no God. Everything is science. Although they cannot explain science. They cannot do anything, simply talking like nonsense. Last night some girls came, so they are students of botany. So I asked them, can you manufacture a seed which can give birth to a big banyan tree? No, sir, it is not possible. Then what kind of botany you are studying? Actually, what is their science? They talk simply something which is going on in the middle portion. Where is the beginning and where is the end of knowledge? That they do not know. They are theorizing only in the middle. They do not know Janmadase Yataha. Where is the beginning of this science? Beginning is Krishna. Krishna says, Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo. He is the beginning. Bijo Ham Sarvabhutanam. That seed, you scientists, you cannot manufacture. What chemicals are there that if you put in the earth and pour some water and it will grow a big tree? These scientists, they cannot explain what is the chemical composition of that. But so that is in the hand of Krishna. So this knowledge means to understand the original source. That is philosophy. Find out the original source. That is knowledge. So the Veda Ishta Sarvir Aham Eva Vedyo, which is from the 15th chapter, 15th verse, the third line of that verse says that the goal of all knowledge is to know Krishna. Actually, the knowledge terminates when you understand Krishna. He is the source of everything. So there is a struggle for existence. A human race, the only hope, His divine grace. And this is part of a poem that Prabhupada wrote to his guru. I think it was in 1936, I think. So we got this information from His divine grace, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakura. And that knowledge is still going on. You are receiving it through His servant, meaning Prabhupada saying you're receiving it through me. I am the disciple of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakura. And in future, the same knowledge will go to your students. So he's saying that he will also, basically he's implying that he will also train his students to become gurus, and they will also spread this message. That Krishna is Vasudeva Savarmiti. Krishna is everything. He's the beginning and He's the end. In fact, there's a very nice verse in Bhagavad Gita like that. In the 10th chapter, it says, he says, 10th chapter, 20th verse, Aham Atma Gudakesha Sarvabhutasaya Stitaha Aham Adis Chamadhyam Cha Bhutanam Anta Eva Cha. So this means, I am the super soul, O Arjuna, seated in the hearts of all living entities. I am the beginning, the middle, and the end of all beings. In this verse, Arjuna is addressed as Gudakesha, which means one who has conquered the darkness of sleep. For those who are sleeping in the darkness of ignorance, it is not possible to understand how the Supreme Personality of Godhead manifests Himself in various ways in the material and spiritual worlds. Thus, this address, or this statement by Krishna to Arjuna, is significant. Because Arjuna is above such darkness, the Personality of Godhead agrees to describe His various opulences. Krishna first informs Arjuna that he is the soul of the entire cosmic manifestation by dint of his primary expansion. Before the material creation, the Supreme Lord, by his plenary expansion, accepts the Purusha incarnations, and from him everything begins. Therefore he is Atma, the soul of the Mahat Tattva, the universal elements. The total material energy is not the cause of the creation. Actually, the Mahavishnu enters into the Mahat Tattva, the total material energy. He is the soul. When Mahavishnu enters into the manifested universes, he again manifests himself as the supersoul in each and every entity. We have experienced that the personal body of the living entity exists due to the presence of the spiritual spark. Without the existence of the spiritual spark, the body cannot develop. Similarly, the material manifestation cannot develop unless the Supreme Soul, Krishna, enters. As stated in Subala Upanishad, Pakrityadi Sarvabhutantar Yami Sarvasesi Cha Narayana. The Supreme Personality of God is existing as the Super Soul in all manifested universes. The three Purusha avatars are described in Srimad Bhagavatam. They are also described in the Sattvata Tantra. Vishnu's two Trini Rupani manifest three features as Karanadakshay Vishnu, Garbhadakshay Vishnu, and Shirodakshay Vishnu. In this material manifestation, the Mahavishnu or Karanadakshay Vishnu is described in the Brahma Samhita 547. Ya Karanar Nava Jale Bhajati Sma Yoga Nidram. The Supreme Lord, Krishna, the cause of all causes, lies down in the cosmic ocean as Mahavishnu. Therefore, the Supreme Personality of God is the beginning of this universe and the maintainer of the universal manifestations and the end of all energy. So to understand what we just read correctly requires a little bit of explanation. So, number one, when Krishna says he's the beginning, the middle, and the end. When he says he's the beginning, whenever there's a beginning and an end, you're talking about the material world. You're not talking about the spiritual world. The spiritual world has no beginning, no middle, and end. On the other hand, everything in the spiritual and material world is coming from Krishna. He has no beginning, he has no end. That's the definition of God. He's a person, like we are, but he has no beginning. Anyone who has a beginning has an end. Therefore, in the material world, our material body has a beginning and it has an end. Our spiritual body is part and parcel of Krishna. It has no beginning, it has no end. So, when he says, I am the beginning, the middle, and the end, he's talking about the material world. And he addresses Arjuna as Gudakesha. What does that mean? It's one who has conquered sleep. So there's two ways of conquering sleep. One is you become very regulated and you don't eat late at night and you go to sleep early and you wake up early and basically you're so regulated there's no sleep-ins. Right? Sleep-in is like you say, oh, well, today I'm not going to wake up for Mangala Arati, I'm just going to sleep, so I'm tired. Well, that is, basically, it's a cop-out. One is copping out of a responsibility. But what is the responsibility? When you follow sadhana bhakti, you have to be very regulated in order to do things properly. So early to bed, early to rise. Arush, what's the rest of it? Very good. I say, you learn just that one little poetry, and you've got the whole sadhana bhakti in your palm like this. You can follow it. If there's no early to bed, early to rise, then the rest of the day is off the tracks. You know, there's a crash. The train has crashed. It went off the tracks. But if you follow that simple advice, and by the way, all these proverbs are our ancestors speaking to us. It's not that they're dead. They left these proverbs. And what are those proverbs all about? It's the collective wisdom of thousands and millions of years of experience. So early to bed, early to rise, makes a man or woman healthy, wealthy, and wise. So what's the purpose of Krishna consciousness? We read this the other day in Srimad Bhagavatam. It's to make people, help people become not only Krishna conscious, but to be healthy and happy and spiritually enlightened, right? So, healthy, wealthy, and wise, it has a material connotation to it, but actually you could interpret it in a spiritual way also, because if you're healthy, health is the greatest wealth, right? So then you're wealthy also, because your body is not holding you back from doing devotional service. And if you're healthy, then you can go to sleep early, wake up early, you can be regulated. And when you wake up early, you can chant your rounds. You could also listen to the class and see the deities, do Tulsi Arti, circumambulate Tulsi. So you can do all these things before the normal day starts for the people who are not Gudakesha, who have not conquered sleep. Anyway, Krishna refers to Arjuna, one who has conquered the darkness of sleep. What does that mean? When we sleep, we're in darkness, we're in the mode of ignorance. And therefore, and we're not against sleep. The material body, before you're completely, self-realized, it requires some sleep. When you become self-realized, we have the example of the Goswamis. They hardly slept at all. But we can't imitate that. But it is possible. It is possible. Then the Goswamis proved that it was possible. So for those who are sleeping in the darkness of ignorance, now that means, I don't know if have you ever heard of sleepwalking? Anybody ever hear of sleepwalking? Yeah. What is sleepwalking?
You are sleeping, but you can still walk around the house and do something, but you will go back to sleep and you will not do anything.
Okay, well, let's say you're camping and you get up from your sleeping bag, you start walking around, and you walk over to a cliff, but you're sleeping though, you don't realize. You're walking toward the cliff, and you come up to the edge of the cliff, and people think, oh, wow, looks like he's chanting his rounds early in the morning. But he's not chanting his rounds. He's sleepwalking. And he walks over the cliff and dies, you see. So there are people, most people in life are sleepwalking. They're asleep. Even though they're driving cars and going to work and saying hello, how are you doing? And everyone says, oh, I'm fine. How are you doing? Oh, I'm feeling great. I'm feeling great. But actually they're sleepwalking. They're not really awake. See, because you only become awake when you use the body in Krishna's service, and you're acting consciously all the time, avoiding sense gratification and talking nonsense and so forth. However, for those who are sleeping in the darkness of ignorance, it is not possible to understand how the Supreme Personality of Godhead manifests himself in various ways in the material and spiritual world. So this is what Bhagavad Gita is explaining, how Krishna manifests himself in the material and spiritual worlds. In other words, when we begin to understand Krishna's vibhutis, his transcendental opulences, we realize, wait a minute, I'm beginning to see Krishna everywhere. I heard Bhagavad Gita, and he's saying, you know, I'm the light of the sun. We're seeing Krishna right now. This is the light of the sun. It belongs to him. It's coming from him, right? And the light of the moon. So that means daytime or nighttime. We can see Krishna, right? Now, there's a full moon. There's the new moon where you don't see the moon, but you see the stars. But the light of the stars is coming from the reflection of the sunlight. So sometimes the moon appears to disappear, right? But actually, it's still there. But you know that the Krishna is there because you're seeing the sunlight reflected off of the stars. So all the time you can see Krishna. Now he says, I'm the taste of water. I am ability in man. I'm the sound in ether. So it's impossible not to see Krishna, let's put it like that. However, it's just like, let's say somebody has a white Nissan electric car, and you know the name of the person. Let's say it belongs to Vihari Das, right? So every time you see a white Nissan electric car, you think, oh, that might be Vihari Das, right? And sometimes it is. And then sometimes it's somebody else in the car. But you associate the white Nissan electric car with a particular person that you know. Well, this is what Krishna is showing. That's what his vibhutis are. He's saying, I'm the light of the sun. I'm the light of the moon. I am ability in man. I'm the taste of water. I am this, I am that. This is a full list in the 10th chapter and the 11th chapter and the 7th chapter, right? So he's teaching us to see him by his expansion, by the expansion of his energies in the material world. So then it says, thus this statement by Krishna to Arjuna, what is the statement? Aham adis cha madhyam cha bhutanam anta eva cha. I'm the beginning, the middle, and the end of all beings. So this statement by Krishna to Arjuna is significant because Krishna is above such darkness. What's darkness? You don't see anything in the dark, right? So if you go to a Mariners game, you know, and everyone's up there cheering the Mariners, right? And you ask someone, do you see Krishna here? What? What do you mean? What are you talking about? I didn't come here to see. Well, who is Krishna anyway? I don't even know what you're talking about. You know, I just see the Mariners. Well, that means he's asleep. He doesn't see anything, right? He only sees matter. And some people, when they come to the temple and they see the deities, they don't really see the deities. They say, oh, they're very pretty statues. They're not seeing anything. They don't understand what they're seeing, right? So, because Arjuna is above such darkness, the personality of Godhead agrees to describe his various opulences. You see, Krishna is not obliged to explain who he is to us. And even if we read Bhagavad Gita without being a devotee, just read the Bhagavad Gita, it doesn't mean we understand what we're reading. Right? Krishna will reveal it to us, just like he's revealing to Arjuna. Why? Because Arjuna made this effort to rise above sleep. Sleep is another synonym for ignorance, darkness. In absolute darkness, you don't see anything. In ignorance, you don't understand anything. So, Krishna first informs Arjuna that he is the soul of the entire cosmic manifestation by dint of his primary expansion. You know what dint means? No. You know what dint means? Well, Agastya is the walking dictionary. Yeah, what does dint mean? Huh? Yes. Yeah, dint means by the virtue or by the mechanism, or as you said, what did you say again? Yeah, because of that. Yeah, because of that. So dint means something is happening by this process. So Krishna first informs Arjuna that he is the soul of the entire cosmic manifestation by dint of his primary expansion. So what causes, how is Krishna the soul of the entire cosmic manifestation? It's because of his primary expansion. What does he mean by primary expansion? Anybody? What is Krishna's primary expansion? Well, the first expansion of Krishna is Balaram, right? And Balaram, from Balaram comes the first Chaturvyuha, Vasudeva, Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. And from Sankarshan comes eventually, and then Narayana, and then from Sankarshan comes the second Chaturvyuha, and from the second Chaturvyuha come the Vishnu incarnations of the material world. So Prabhupada says, Krishna first informs Arjuna that he is the soul of the entire cosmic manifestation by the dint, or by virtue of his primary expansion. That's Lord Balaram. Before the material creation, the Supreme Lord, by his plenary expansions, now he talked about a primary expansion, now he's talking about a plenary expansion. What is the plenary expansion? Plenary means absolute expansion. In other words, it's still him, but there can be slight differences. Just like Krishna has 2 arms, Narayana has 4 arms, right? And so, but his primary expansion, Balaram, only has 2 arms. So Balaram is virtually Krishna. There's no difference, except he's slightly light, fair complexion, and Krishna a dark complexion. Otherwise, there's no difference. Same power, same person. But now he's talking about not a primary expansion, his plenary expansion. Plenary expansion means they have the same energy, the same power as Krishna, but maybe not the same look as Krishna. So instead of 2 arms, they're 4-armed, and so forth. Okay, so now it says, before the material creation, so now you don't have to talk about a spiritual creation, it's eternal, right? It was never created and never destroyed. But now, when we talk about a creation, it's talking about the material world that has a beginning and an end. Although the energy of the material world is eternal, but all the forms that are made, like material bodies, trees, insects, whatever, those forms are not eternal. The energy is eternal, but not the forms. So it says, by his plenary expansion, accepts the Purusha incarnations, and from him, everything begins. So, Purusha incarnations referring to Karanadakshaya Vishnu or Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and Shirodakshaya Vishnu, or the Super Soul. So you see how if you don't pay attention to these words, you lose the flow. You lose the way Prabhupada is developing this. Now, this is all complicated stuff, but he makes it very simple. He talks about a primary expansion, then plenary expansion, then he talks about the material creation, and now he's talking about also incarnations. Now, the word incarnation is a little misleading. It's a Latin word. It means that something appears in carn or material body. But the real word is avatara. That means someone descends from the spiritual world. They don't have a material body. But because there's no word like that in English, they adopted the word incarnation. How can there be a word in English? They don't understand the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. Obviously, so the closest word they have in English is called incarnation. But the Mahavishnu, Garbhodaksha Vishnu, Kshirodaksha Vishnu, they don't have material bodies. They're not coming into material bodies. Incarnate means you're coming into a material body. But that's the only word we have in English that's slightly equivalent. However, they do appear in the material world, but they don't have material bodies. They have spiritual bodies. And they're not affected by the material nature. And therefore, from him, everything begins. So now we see, when you say Narayana, you can call Krishna Narayana. Why? Because it's a plenary expansion of the Lord. Right? You can call Krishna Kshirodaksha Vishnu because it's a plenary expansion of the Lord. But Krishna's original form is two-armed. And all these other forms we're talking about now are four-armed. So to understand this, the expansions of Krishna means that you become a liberated soul. Why? Because you'll be able to see Krishna everywhere if you start understanding his expansions. You'll never be outside of Krishna's vision. People think they're outside of God's vision because he's somewhere, in heaven somewhere. And we're down here in the real world, So it's just an abstract God up there somewhere. Okay, we believe in God, but it's an abstract kind of God, and he doesn't really know everything we're doing. When we lock our bedroom door, and nobody knows what we're doing. But wait a minute. God is a lot closer than outside your bedroom, he's in your heart. He knows exactly what you're doing, what you're thinking, everything. But see, people have segregated God with their speculative knowledge. So when the cat's away, the mouse will play. You know this, Robert? The cat's away. So when you segregate God with your very clever, let's say wordings, he's in heaven and we're in the real world here, So all of a sudden, you're opening the door to being the playful mouse who does all kinds of nonsense when the cat's away. Right? So we can do all kinds of nonsense in the material world that has no relationship, and God doesn't know about it. But that, of course, is false. Okay? So that's sleeping in the darkness of ignorance. That is exactly what the darkness of ignorance is. The darkness of ignorance refers to this self-imposed ignorance by believing things that are not true. And then we become prisoners of our own self-imposed ignorance. The whole thing is artificial, right? So then it says the Atma, the soul of the Mahat Tattva, the universal elements. So therefore Krishna is the soul of the universal elements. So when he enters into the universal elements called Mahat Tattva, as Kshirodaksha Vishnu, as Karanadaksha Vishnu or Mahavishnu, and Garbhodaksha Vishnu, Kshirodaksha Vishnu, those material elements, without the presence of Krishna, are immovable. They're not moving. They're not combining. They're not making things. It's chaotic. Chaotic means there's no forms that are visible. Chaos is a word from Greek. They had this idea of chaos, but the meaning today is something that is not organized. You can't recognize it. Right? This is exactly what Brahma saw when he appeared from the navel, from the lotus flower, from the navel of Garbhodaksha Vishnu. He looked around. He didn't see anything. It was just darkness, and he couldn't figure out, what's his origin. That's what we're all trying to figure out. What is our origin? Right? So when you go to school, they teach you, your origin is a monkey. Well, if you believe your origin is a monkey, then you'll say, well, this is my ancestors. So, now I'm doing monkey business. There's nothing wrong with it. This is my original nature. We all come from monkeys. But if you study Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, you say, wait, I don't come from a monkey. I come from Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, I have to act like Krishna. Follow the rules and regulations of the spiritual life and be a devotee of the Lord. But if you become a devotee of the monkey, let's say, Augusta, you became a devotee of a monkey, how would you act? Oh, by the way, there was an article yesterday in the news. It said that this one temple in India is besieged by feral monkeys. Yeah. No. It is a temple in Vrindavan. There's two types of monkeys in Vrindavan. One of them has gone rogue, and they're attacking people. Before they would just do mischief, but they wouldn't attack people. Now they're attacking people, taking over a whole temple. No one can go past stool in that temple because the monkeys have taken control of the bathrooms and the kitchen. So, and they don't want to kill the monkeys because they don't want to do that, but they can't function. So they don't know what to do. They've used all kinds of non-violent ways of trying to get rid of the monkeys. It doesn't work anymore. So the monkeys are causing havoc in Vrindavan. Yeah, the temple is in Vrindavan. It's not in Simla. You said Simla or something? Yeah. So if you're a devotee of a monkey, what do you do? If you think we all come from monkeys and you become a devotee of a monkey, what would you do? They would do all nonsense all day long. That's all they do. They eat, they sleep, they steal, they pass stool anywhere. They break things, they tear things apart. And they're thieves also. They steal. And they go in gangs and beat up people. And sometimes they bite them, they scratch them, and people get really injured. Right? So, if you think we come from monkeys, then you'll become like a monkey. And if you think we come from Krishna, then you become a genuine devotee. You don't steal, you don't disturb people, you don't create havoc. Okay, so Krishna is Atma, the soul of the Mahat Tattva. So the Mahat Tattva is a total material energy, but it hasn't started to interact yet, right? But when Mahavishnu enters the material energy, then it becomes electrified with activity. Just like before the electricity is on, nothing works. Right? But when the electricity comes on, everything starts working. Right? So after electricity goes off, now what happens? The lights go off. Right? Many things stop working. But that electricity is coming from Mahavishnu. And Mahavishnu is non-different than Krishna, but his form looks different, but he has the same energy as Krishna, the same power. So it's because of him that the material energy begins to move and do things. He is the soul. Just like if there's no soul in the body, does it move? No. It only moves when there's a soul in the body. So this material nature is only moving because of Mahavishnu entered it and then expanded itself as Garbhodaksha Vishnu, Shiradaksha Vishnu. Otherwise it will not move. Okay. So we have experienced that the personal body of the living entity exists due to the presence of the spiritual spark. Without the existence of the spiritual spark, the body cannot develop. Similarly, now you see, Prabhupada always starts from the known to understand the unknown. Now we know that if there's no soul in the body, it doesn't move. It's dead. It's not conscious. But if there's a soul in the body, it begins to move and it's conscious. And when the soul leaves the body, what happens? No, nothing. No more consciousness, no more movement. So he's saying the only reason this material world moves is things are happening is because of the presence of Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, and Kshirodakshay Vishnu, especially Kshirodakshay Vishnu, who's present in every atom and in the heart of every living entity, right? So it says here, we have experienced that the personal body of the living entity exists due to the presence of the spiritual spark. Without the existence of the spiritual spark, the body cannot develop. Similarly, the material manifestation cannot develop unless the Supreme Soul, Krishna, enters. Now, what do the scientists say? They said, this is all a bunch of nonsense. They say, there's no such thing as Krishna or Supreme Soul, or nothing moves without the soul. Everything moves because of matter. Matter is the source of everything. Now, see, now you have two opposing concepts here. One says we all come from monkeys. And, you know, the goal of life is to become a devotee of a monkey. And the other one says we all come from Krishna, and the goal of life is to become a devotee of Krishna. And one says everything moves by itself, only by matter. And the other one says it only moves because Krishna has entered into the Mahat Tattva. And Mahat Tattva is his energy also, but it only moves when he enters into it. Because nothing moves without a soul. So we have two opposing ways of seeing things. And both of those lead to how you behave in life. If you believe we all come from monkeys, and you say, well, wait a minute, I'm just following my ancestors by breaking this and stealing this and eating whatever I want to eat and sleeping too much and whatever. I'm just following my ancestors. This is my people. Monkeys. And if you say, wait a minute, I don't come from a monkey, I come from Krishna. And Krishna was following all the rules. When he was in Dwarka, he's a Grihastha, he was waking up early every morning and doing all his spiritual duties, although he didn't have any duty to do it, but he did it to give an example to others. And so forth. So, unless you know the beginning, then you'll understand the end, or the middle and the end. If you only understand the middle, you don't understand the beginning, you don't understand the end, your life is chaotic. You'll not be able to live properly. So you have to know the beginning, the middle, and the end. So that's what Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam are teaching. So similarly, the material manifestation cannot develop unless the Supreme Soul, Krishna, enters. As stated in the Subala Upanishad, the Supreme Personality of God is existing as the Supersoul in all manifested universes. That means there's not one universe. There are many more universes beside this universe. We can't even understand this universe. We can't even go to the end of this universe, right? Or the last boundary of the universe. And who's going to live long enough to travel 40 million light years? A light year is the distance light moves in 1 year. So if light moves 178,000 miles per hour, right? Now you calculate how many miles that makes in a year. You see, we can't even go 78 miles in an hour, right? You try and go 78 miles an hour, you'll get a ticket, right? From a policeman, you'll be speeding. So, and light goes 178,000 miles per second. Per second. So you see, we can't even measure this universe. And here it's saying there are many other universes. Okay, so the three Purusha avatars are described in Srimad Bhagavatam. They are also described in the Sattvata Tantra. The Supreme Personality of Godhead manifests three features as Karanadakshay Vishnu, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, and Kshirodakshay Vishnu in this material manifestation. The Mahavishnu or Karanadakshay Vishnu is described in the Brahma Samhita. The Supreme Lord Krishna, the cause of all causes, lies down in the cosmic ocean as Mahavishnu. Therefore, the Supreme Personality of God is the beginning of this universe, the maintainer of the universal manifestations, and the end of all energy. Is it an end? Actually, no. He's just winds into himself all the material energy, waiting for the next creation. So there's relativity is explained, origins are explained, finalities are explained, everything is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. And in this two-paragraph purport, Prabhupada has explained everything about the material world. Okay, so we come back again, what Prabhupada says here, that is the philosophy. Find out the original source. That is philosophy. Find out the original source. That is knowledge. So the Vedaischa Sarver Aham Eva Vedyo, again, this is the third line of the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 15th verse, where Krishna says that he is the goal of all Vedic knowledge. Right? Actually, the knowledge terminates when you understand Krishna. In other words, there's nothing beyond Krishna. Krishna is everything, and nothing beyond him. There's no cause beyond Krishna. He is the cause of all causes. Right? Whereas the scientists are, wait, there's no such thing. It's an infinite regress. Anybody remember what an infinite regress is? Yes. Yeah, you can never figure out the original cause. You just keep arguing. No, it's the chicken. No, it's the egg. No, it's the chicken. No, it's the egg. You can't figure it out. But now we just figured it out. It made it very simple. Krishna is the cause of all causes. There's nothing beyond him. And he has no cause, because he's never born. He never dies. Okay. He is the source of everything. So there is a struggle for existence, a human race, the only hope, his divine grace. So what is the struggle for existence? People are struggling with the material nature. We're getting old, getting sick, we're going to die. There's competition. There's scarcity of food sometimes, or sometimes there's not enough gasoline. There's a gasoline scarcity, or sometimes it gets too cold, sometimes it's too hot, and sometimes people are mean, and this and that. They're struggling all the time, right? Struggling just to exist. And we're existing in an atmosphere of non-existence. Write this down. Existing in an atmosphere of non-existence. What does that mean? Well, you would have to understand the difference between sat and asat. Sat means something that's eternal, and asat means something that's temporary. So, therefore, Prabhupada's statement, we're existing in an atmosphere or in a state of non-existence, that means we have our soul, which is eternal, but right now it's surrounded by this material body, which is temporary. So we're existing in a state of non-existence. And this is confusing. We get confused. On one hand, we see the body as a beginning, a middle, and an end. So we think, oh, well, everything is like that. But actually, our soul is not like that. Our soul has no beginning and no end. So we're existing as an eternal soul in the state of non-existence, the body, the material body. How long is it going to be there? You tell me. Soul? Yes. The body is asat. So asat means non-existence or not eternal. So we even though our soul is eternal, it's in this envelope that is not eternal. And we get confused by it. So we identify with the body and we ignore the soul. Okay, so Prabhupada, he quotes this line of a poem that he wrote, beautiful poem, glorifying his guru, and he says, so there is a struggle for existence, a human race, the only hope, His divine grace. Haribol, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Radha Nila Madhava.
Yashomati Nandana Brajabara Nagara Gokula Ranjana Kana Yashomati Nandana Brajabara Nagara Gokula Ranjana Kana Gopi Paranadana Madana Manohara Gopi Paranadana Madana Manohara Kaliya Damana Vidana Amala Harinamamiya Vilasa Amala Harinamamiya Vilasa Dipina Purandara Navina Nagara Bora Vamsi Badana Suvasa Brajajana Palana Surakula Nasana Brajajana Palana Surakula Nasana Nanda Godana Rakovala Govinda Madhava Navanita Taskara Govinda Madhava Navanita Taskara Sundarananda Gopala Jamuna Tatachara Gopi Basanahara Rasa Rasika Kripa Moya Shri Radha Vallabha Vrindavana Natabara Shri Radha Vallabha Vrindavana Natabara Bhakti Vinoda Shaya सोमति नन्दन ब्रजवर नागर गोकुल रञ्जन काना जयो राधा नीला माधव राधा नीला माधव श्री राधे जयो राधा नीला माधव राधा नीला माधव श्री राधे जयो लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जयो लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जयो लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जयो लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जयो जगन्नाथ जयो जगन्नाथ जयो बालादेव जयो सुभद्रा जयो सीताराम जयो सीताराम जयो सीताराम जयो लक्ष्मण हनुमान जयो गौरानीता जयो गौरानीता जयो गौरानीता जयो गौरानीता जयो जयो प्रभुपाद 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 जयो जयो प्रभुपाद जयो जयो प्रभुपाद 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 जयो जयो प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव नित्य गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल
All glories to Assembly, all glories to Assembly, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada ki.
The Prabhupada says, so there's a struggle for existence. And we know that. And we're struggling, trying to control the material nature, which is impossible to do. So we're always struggling. And Prabhupada continues. So we got this information from His Divine Grace, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura, and that knowledge is still going on. You are receiving through His servant. That means Prabhupada is the servant of His Guru, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And in future, the same knowledge will go to your students. That means that's parampara, that Guru teaches a disciple, and disciple sincerely follows. He or she also becomes Guru, because they simply repeat what they've learned from their bona fide Guru. And in future, the same knowledge will go to your students. This is called parampara system. Evam parampara praptam imam rajar sayo vidu sakalina mahata yoganasta parantapa. It is not that you have become a student and you remain student. No. One day, you shall become also Guru and make more students, more. That is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission, not that perpetually you remain a student. Yes, once you remain perpetually a student, but he has got to act as Guru. That is the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It is not that because I am acting as Guru, I am no longer student. No, I am still student. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught us this instruction, that we shall always remain a foolish student before our Guru Maharaj. That is the Vedic culture. I may be a very big man, but still, I should remain a foolish student to my Guru. That is the qualification. Guru more murka deki karila sasana. We should be always prepared to be controlled by the Guru. That is a very good qualification. Yasha prasadat bhagavat prasada yasha prasadana nagatir katopi. Arana kuriya mane asa. So we should become always a very obedient student to our Guru. That is the qualification. That is spiritual qualification. My Guru Maharaj wanted me to preach in the Western countries, although I was at that time an ordinary manager in a chemical firm. I never thought that this would happen, but I took it seriously. So from that 1922 to 1965, it was fruitful. How many years? Devotee, 43. Prabhupada, 43 years. So it is better late than never. Yes. So my guru desired me. I thought, now I am family man. Let me adjust things. I would have accepted immediately, but I was not so intelligent at that time. I thought, my responsibility to family is there. Let me wait. But still, Guru Maharaj was so kind to me that when I was Grihastha, I was seeing him in dreaming. And he asked me, you come with me. So I was going, and after that I was thinking, oh, I will have to take sannyasa and go with him. So it appeared to me very horrible. I was not very much inclined to take sannyasa. But Guru Maharaj is so kind that he ultimately forced me to take sannyasa and do his work. So it is all his kindness. So this is the memory of his kindness. So 40 years ago, I remember the same thing as it is in 1922. And still the same thing is going on. There's nothing new. We have nothing to do, meaning we have nothing to, we're not going to create anything new. Simply let us present as it is. It will be successful. So he's talking here about presenting Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita as it is, not giving his own personal interpretation to it in order to establish himself as maybe greater than his guru, or even greater than Krishna. So simply let us present as it is. It will be successful. So he's indicating if we simply repeat things as we've heard them, as the bona fide statements that we've heard from other devotees who simply repeat what Krishna and Prabhupada have said and the acharyas have said, then it will be successful. We don't have to change anything. You see, the spirit of my writing is the same. Misled we are, all going astray. This soul-killing civilization is misleading us. So he quoted another line from his poem. And he's saying this soul-killing civilization is misleading us. We must know this very misleading civilization. Our real aim of life is to understand our spiritual identification and search out our relationship with God, Krishna. That is our real business. But this modern civilization is misleading us in different ways. So I wrote this, that misled we are, all going astray. Save us, Lord, our fervent prayer. Wonder thy ways, to turn our face, adore thy feet, your divine grace. So this portion he very much appreciated. That means Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur appreciated these lines. Misled we are, all going astray. Save us, Lord, our fervent prayer. Wonder thy ways, to turn our face, adore thy feet, your divine grace. So we have to find out ways how to turn the current. The current is sense enjoyment. Material life means the current is sense enjoyment. And this current has to be turned. Sense enjoyment of Krishna. In other words, instead of working for our own sense enjoyment, we should try and please the transcendental senses of Krishna, as we do in deity worship, as we do in organizing festivals, or whatever we do. We're trying to please the Lord. Material life means the current is sense enjoyment, and this current has to be turned, has to be changed. Sense enjoyment to sense enjoyment of Krishna. Sense enjoyment is there, but the material civilization, the misled civilization, is that the sense gratification is taken for one's own self or personal. When the sense gratification will be turned toward Krishna, then our life is successful. Just like the gopis, apparently it appears that the gopis, they were attracted by young boy Krishna, and for their sense enjoyment they made friendship with Krishna. No, that is not the fact. The fact is that the gopis used to dress themselves nicely because by seeing them, Krishna will be satisfied, not that for their sense gratification. Generally, a girl dresses also to attract the attention of the boys. So the same thing is there, but it is Krishna's sense gratification, not the gopis. The gopis did not want anything, but Krishna will be satisfied. That's their only desire. That is the difference between lust and love. Love is there only possible when it is diverted toward Krishna. That is love. And beyond that, not beyond that, below that, everything is lust. So we should always remember this. The senses are not stopped, but when the gratification of the senses is directed toward Krishna, that is bhakti, or love. And when the sense gratification is directed toward personal self, that is lust. This is the difference between lust and love. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur knew this art, how to turn our activities for the satisfaction of Krishna. This is Krishna consciousness movement. Therefore he's going back to his poem. Wonder thy ways to turn our face, adore thy feet your divine grace. So, using the word wonder, the word has different meanings. Usually wonder, W-O-N-D-E-R, not wander, but wonder, W-O-N-D-E-R, means you contemplate something and it strikes you as somewhat amazing. But there are other meanings of this word. You have to look at the secondary meanings. Let's see what he says. Okay, so a feeling of surprise mingled with admiration caused by something beautiful, unexpected, unfamiliar, or inexplicable. That's as a noun. But as a verb, desire to be curious to know something. You see, so he's using it and as a noun, not as a, he's using it as a verb, not as a noun. You see how tricky English can be. So as a verb, it means desire to be curious to know something. So he says, wonder, W-O-N-D-E-R, thy ways. So desire to know, or be curious to know, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's technique. To turn our face, adore they feet your divine grace. So they should adore the lotus feet of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and if they're desirous to know something what? How to turn our face from sense gratification to pleasing Krishna's senses. See, so you have to decipher the poetry. Poetry is, it's like sutras, but he's using the word wonder as a verb rather than a noun. So we should be curious to know how this Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is redirecting our attention from personal sense gratification and selfishness to pleasing Krishna. You see? So wonder thy grace. Wonder thy ways to turn our face, adore thy feet your divine grace. It doesn't say adore your feet. Adore they. So they adore Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's feet, lotus feet. Forgotten Krishna, we fallen souls. Why are we fallen? So he says, wonder thy ways to turn our face, adore thy feet, your divine grace. Forgotten Krishna, we fallen souls. So he says, why we are fallen? Because we have forgotten. Our relationship with Krishna is eternal. unless it is eternal, how you Western peoples could be devotee of Krishna. Artificially, you cannot be a devotee of Krishna. The relationship is there eternally. Nitya Siddha Krishna Bhakti. By the process, it is now awakened. So he's saying, I came to the United States not to convert you to something foreign, but just to remind you that you were originally a devotee of Krishna, and it's a fact. That's why you've taken to Krishna consciousness. If it was something foreign and completely different than you wouldn't be able to adopt it. You'd say, no, this is not me. But I've simply come to jostle or to invigorate your memory so you can remember that you were originally a servant of Krishna. He says, our relationship with Krishna is eternal. Unless it was eternal, how you Western peoples could be devotee of Krishna? Artificially, you cannot be a devotee of Krishna. The relationship is there eternally. Nitya Siddha Krishna Bhakti. By the process, it is now awakened. What's the process? Process is accepting association of devotees and accepting Guru and being trained as a devotee of the Lord. Shavanadi Sudachitte Karaye Udaya. It is awakened. Love between young man and young woman. It is not artificial. It is there. But by certain circumstances, the environment, the love becomes manifest. Similarly, our love for Krishna, our relationship with Krishna, is eternal. Jivera Swarupahaya Nityara Krishna Dasa. But we have to create such a situation that eternal relation should be awakened. That is the art that is wanted. Wow, you see how amazing Prabhupada is. He says that is the art. It's an art to help awaken our original memory of being the eternal servant of the Lord. But there's a process. The process is what we're doing in Krishna consciousness. Waking up early, chanting our rounds, coming to Mangalarati, hearing the class, worshipping Tulsi Devi, Charanamrita, Prasadam, all these things. This is the art of awakening our consciousness. We've simply forgotten Krishna completely, but Krishna is there somewhere in our let's say subtle mind. If we simply awaken it, our remembrance of Krishna by this process of Krishna consciousness, see, he says that is the art. So, forgotten Krishna, we fallen souls pay most heavy the illusion's toll. So, you have to pay the toll, you have to pay the price of forgetting Krishna, which means you struggle in existence. Everything is a struggle. So Prabhupada says, because we have forgotten Krishna, we are paying heavy toll, taxation. What is that taxation? The taxation is Nivartante mrityu samsaravartamani. This is a verse from Bhagavad Gita. This human life is meant for understanding Krishna, but instead of understanding Krishna, we're understanding the so-called material science for sense gratification. Yes. What is that science? It's called psychology or psychology. We're learning to become psychos by studying the science of sense gratification. You see? It's the so-called material science for sense gratification. You have to read books on how to have sense gratification. There's so many books. You can go to a second-hand bookstore. You'll see like thousands of books on how to enhance your sense gratification. By doing yoga, by flipping houses, by investing in the stock market, by going to a spa. All these books are teaching people how to increase their sense gratification. So Prabhupada is saying here, This human life is meant for understanding Krishna, but instead of understanding Krishna, we are understanding the so-called material science for sense gratification. This is our position. The energy which was given by nature to understand Krishna, that is being utilized how to manufacture something for sense gratification. This is going on. This is Maya, illusion. Therefore, it is pay most heavy the illusion's toll. The toll tax that we are paying because we have forgotten Krishna. Therefore, now we have manufactured the nuclear weapon, Russia, America, and you will have to pay heavily. They're already paying heavily. The armament preparation is going on. More than 50% of the income of the state are now being spent for this armament. Heavily, we're paying. Instead of other purposes, it is being spent for military strength, every state, so that heavy toll we are paying. And when there is war, there's no limit how much we are spending for this devastation. So the question is, why? Why doing this? Because we have forgotten Krishna. That is a fact. So these people, they have made the United States unnecessarily fighting like dogs. So this will not solve the problems. The problem will be solved if they pass a resolution that the whole world, not only this world, Krishna says, Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. Krishna is the proprietor, so why not accept? Actually, he is the proprietor. Who has created this planet? We have created, or Father created? No. Krishna has created, but we are claiming this portion is American, this portion is Indian, this portion is Pakistani. Unnecessary. What is the value of this claim? We may claim it for 50 or 60 or 100 years, and after that one kicks, get out. Where is your claim? But they do not understand this philosophy. They are fighting. That's all. They're fighting. This is mine. This is my land. This is my land. They do not know. Krishna says, Tata dehantara prapti. You are American today, so tomorrow, even within America, if you become an American cow or American animal, no one will care for you. No one will care for your politics. But this art, they do not know. This science, they do not know. They are under illusion. They are in thinking that I shall continue to remain American. So let waste my time. Let me waste my time for American interest, so-called interest. There cannot be any interest other than Krishna consciousness. Prakrite kriyamanani gurnai karmani sarvasaha. Everything is being done by nature, and we are simply falsely thinking ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. This illusion is going on. Forgotten Krishna, we fallen souls pay most heavy the illusion's toll. We are paying. Darkness all around, all untraced. The only hope, your divine grace. This message. Simply we are in darkness, so we shall discuss later on again. Now just, what is the time now? 9:15. Yes, so we shall discuss again. So the same thing, it is chalked out by Krishna and by parampara system. We have understood this philosophy. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarsayo vidu. So keep this parampara system. This Vyasa Puja is parampara system. Vyasa Puja means to accept this parampara system. Vyasa. Guru is the representative of Vyasadeva because he does not change anything. What Vyasa Puja? What Vyasadeva said, your Guru will also say the same thing. Not that so many hundreds of thousands of years have passed away, therefore I will give you a new formula. No, there is no new formula. The same Vyasa Puja, the same philosophy. Simply so we have to accept it. Then our life will be successful. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So this is the meaning of Guru. He's teaching us how to remember the most precious thing that we've forgotten. That's Krishna. But yet, the whole material science is for sense gratification in order to forget Krishna. So it's the opposite of what we should be doing. You know. In a society where everyone is genuinely Krishna conscious, it'll be peaceful, it'll be happy, it'll be prosperous, and people will be making real spiritual progress, going back to Godhead at the end of life. Okay, so the homework is chapter 10, verse 20. So we went over this. I want you to explain what he means by point 1, darkness of ignorance. Number 2, explain what it means that Krishna is the soul of the entire cosmic manifestation. That means you have to explain what is cosmic manifestation and what he means by he, Krishna. It doesn't say Vishnu or anything. It says Krishna informs Arjuna that he is the soul of the entire cosmic manifestation by dint of his primary expansion. You have to understand what that means, by dint of his primary expansion. And then, what is the difference between the primary expansion and his plenary expansion? So point 3, the difference between primary expansion and plenary expansion. And then, number 4, what are the Purusha incarnations? What does it mean that he is Atma, the soul of the Mahat Tattva? So just for a little more clarification, you would have to explain what is the difference between Mahat Tattva and Pradhana, P-R-A-D-H-A-N-A. I didn't explain Pradhana. You can look it up. The difference between Pradhana, P-R-A-D-H-A-N-A, and Mahat Tattva. He's defining Mahat Tattva as the total material energy. I'll just give you a little hint. There are 2 stages of the total material energy, 2 primary stages. One is the unmanifest state, and the other is the manifest state. So you'd have to understand what is Pradhana and what is Mahat Tattva in that sense. And then, so that's 4 points, right? Or 5 points. Pradhana is 5, yeah. And then, explain how he starts from the known to understand the unknown in this purport. He starts from the known to understand the unknown. To explain the example that he gave. And explain the difference between the impersonalists, the atheists, concept of explain what is cause of all causes, and the atheist argument about infinite regress. So that's 6 points or 7 points? 7, yeah. Okay, so that's your homework. 10th chapter, 20th verse. Bhagavad Gita, yeah. It's an amazing purport. So many points. There are more points, but I don't want to give you too much homework. You got it, Agastya? Yeah. Got it? Okay, so Shrestha did her homework. Did you do your homework? Okay, all right, you start. What's your homework? Let me hear. The homework was explain cause and effect, right? Okay. Augustia is going to be a lawyer. You're trying to find circumstantial evidence how the chair was cut in half. That's what lawyers do. Go ahead. Okay. Well, I mean, it's possible if there was a witness, you would find out who cut the chair in half. But you would have to find a witness. I'll tell you an interesting story. There's this one police woman in Dallas, Texas. She had spent 13 hours working, on duty as a policewoman, and she was very tired. So she drives home. She happens to live in a mixed racial community, right? Blacks and whites living close to each other. And she has an apartment. And that day, because she was tired or who knows why, instead of parking a car on the third level of the parking lot, she parks it on the fourth level. And all the levels look the same in a parking lot, right? It's all concrete. And she lives on the third floor, but she parks by accident on the fourth floor parking lot. And then she goes into the fourth floor thinking it's the third floor where she lives, and she goes to where she thinks is her apartment. She's not really paying real attention, she claims. And by mistake, for some reason or other, her door was open, or it's not her door, right? It's the guy, the person who lives on the fourth floor, but she thinks it's her door. And she has a doubt in her mind. What's going on? I locked the door when I left. She walks in, and she sees someone in the dark room. And then she said, "Who are you? What are you doing here in my apartment?" And he's like confused. It's his apartment, right? And he happens to be a black guy, right? And she has her gun. She still had her police uniform on, and she had her gun. She takes her gun over and says, "Tell me who you are. What are you doing in my apartment?" And he doesn't answer because it's his apartment. Right? And she kills him. She actually shot him and killed him. And then when the lights come on, she sees that she's in the wrong apartment, and he's dying. And she says, "Oh my God, I'll lose my job," And then the police come, and they arrest her, and then they let her go because they're trying to figure out what happened. I mean, she's not going to go anywhere. And then they arrest her again a week or two, and they fire her from her job. And now she's going to go. She has a trial, and she's convicted of murder. And she claims, "Look, I didn't know. I thought it was my own apartment." Right? So, one of the neighbor lives on the other side of the hall, or the corridor. I mean, the opposite side of the corridor, like it's right next door. He was the key witness that convinced the jury that she committed a murder. Because she said that she was asking, "Who are you? Why are you in my apartment?" Right? So he said, when it happened, he was walking toward his room, which is right, parallel with the other lady's room, but on the other side of the corridor. And he said when he walked up, he didn't hear any talking in the room. He just heard the shots. So this convinced the jury that she was lying, that she didn't say, "Who are you? What are you doing in my apartment?" Right? She claims she said that. He said, "I didn't hear anything like that." And that was what convinced the jury that she actually killed the man unnecessarily, right? Just because he was black. She's white. Right? So, what happened to the key witness? It happened yesterday or the day before. Someone killed him. in his apartment. Went in and shot him dead. Now they're really confused. They're not sure if that someone was maybe a friend of the policewoman that got convicted or not. But it's very strange that, like a week, not even a week after she's convicted, someone walks into his apartment, shoots him dead, and goes away. No one knows who did it. You see? So this is the thing, cause and effect. Did she knowingly go to the 4th floor to kill that man or not? Right? It looks very suspicious because, she lives on the 3rd floor. And, she thought that was her apartment, but didn't she see that it's not the 3rd floor, And did she actually say, who are you? Why are you in my apartment? And the witness, who that wasn't in the apartment, but he was walking toward his door, and it's right across from the other door. He said, I didn't hear anything. I just heard shots. And then he gets killed. He gets murdered. See how cause and effect is very confusing in the material world. And it's purposely like that. So, unless you understand that Krishna is the original cause of everything, you'll be confused by cause and effect. But then the atheists complicate it even more by saying, oh no, there's an infinite regress. Where you can't, that means, there's no such thing as Krishna as the original cause of everything. Who caused Krishna? Because there's always cause and effect in the material world. But wait a minute, this cause and effect is created by Krishna, and people are bewildered by it. They're always trying to figure out the cause, and in some situations you can't figure out, very much like Augusta explained, who cut the chair in half, right? A nice example. Okay, Shrestha, you read yours. Samart, did you do your homework? Okay. Speak a little louder. It's 12th canto, 4th chapter, 20th verse. Yeah, okay. Okay, so explain that, because that's the key statement right there. Because since the cause and effect are interrelated and relative to each other, they are not on the absolute platform. Well, that means, okay, I'll let you explain. Yeah. Yes. Well, no, the key is that they're relative to each other. And the material scientists and atheistic philosophers say that there's no absolute truth. There's only relative things. And one thing relative to another thing, you cannot determine whether something is true or not. Like, for example, Hitler had his own vision of right and wrong. And it was completely different than other people's vision of right and wrong. And because of that, he caused the death of so many people, and he convinced, a whole country, like millions of people, that his vision of right and wrong was right, and other people's vision of right and wrong was wrong. And because of that, he got them to cooperate with him to kill, whatever he decided to do, everyone went along with it, right? So there was no absolute. It was one relative thing to another relative thing. So if you have two relative things, you can't figure out which is true, which is not true, because they're both relative. Relative means one thing depends on the other, but two relative things means the ashes of the wooden chair are relative to the wooden chair, and the wooden chair is relative to the ashes after it's been burned. So you can't really figure out what is true or not true. It's like the chicken and the egg, which one came first. Well, you could say, well, it has to be the wooden chair, because these are the ashes of the wooden chair. Yes, that's true, but that doesn't mean you understand how it happened, and what is the purpose of it. So, without having absolute truth, everything is relative, and when everything is relative, you can't figure out what is actually right and what is actually wrong. Just like this lady is saying, look, I made a mistake, I worked 13 hours, I was tired, and I accidentally parked on the 4th floor of the parking lot instead of the 3rd floor. My apartment's on the 3rd floor. I thought I was on the 3rd floor. When I walked to my apartment, I saw that the door was open, even though I didn't know it wasn't my apartment. I didn't know it. I thought it was my apartment, right? And I walk in and I see some black guy there, and I said, "Who are you? Why are you in my apartment?" He doesn't say anything. And I'm a policewoman. I had my uniform on. I had my revolver. I pulled my revolver up, and I said, "You better tell me who you are." I'm a policewoman. And he seemed to walk toward me in the shadow, and I got afraid, and I shot him. It's only when the lights were on I realized I was in the wrong apartment, and this was this man's apartment. And why was the door open? And I thought it was, you see what happens, right? So now, they had to determine in the court case whether she was telling the truth or not. She actually questioned the guy, "Who are you?" Before she shot. And so another witness comes who wasn't in the room, but he lives right across from that room, the same floor. And he said, when I walked, I was almost at my door. I didn't hear any conversation. And the jury became convinced that she was lying, that she did not ask him, "Who are you?" She just shot. So they convicted her of murder. Now, it's very confusing, right? It's very, very confusing. And now that witness, he was murdered just a day or two ago, right? A week after the conviction. So then, it raises all kinds of questions, why was he murdered? Was it a unrelated thing, or was it someone who was getting vengeance on him, So you see how everyone gets confused because of because one thing is relative to another thing. And plus the atheistic scientists and the atheistic philosophers, they're insisting that there's no absolute truth. There's no God, there's no spiritual world, there's no absolute truth. Therefore, one thing is relative to another thing, and then you can come to your own conclusions. All conclusions are valid because there's no absolute truth. So this is why it's a dangerous thing to be teaching people that there's no absolute truth, everything is relative. And this cause and effect in the material world was created by Krishna, and it's purposely there to confuse people who reject the existence of the absolute truth of God's existence. And they get confused. They stay confused their whole life. They can't figure anything out. Haribol. Very good. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Krishna
Excellent. Beyond the interdependence of cause and effect. Very good. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So you have your homework for next week. Jai.
Very good.